And this is kind of give you an indication of how many employees are involved in each agency. FMCSA is actually up to about just under 8 million at the moment. And then collectively, it's about 10 million people. You can see the number of tests, and this only goes to 2011, but the number of tests per every 6 months. Last year is a little bit over about 3.5 million. So you can see the graph is continuing to come up. It did decline starting in 2008, 2009, and then in 2010 on, we've had a steady increase in DOT testing. DOT has special emphasis on certain things: the collectors doing their job properly, using the right form in the right situation, pros doing their job properly, and collection site security and integrity. They do audits on collection sites. We started out by showing you the ODAPSI homepage, and the listserv is required. This is a previous version of it. So let's talk about FMCSA, which is most of the calls that you will get. How does the company know if they're required to have DOT drug and alcohol testing? So the question is, do they have CDL drivers that operate commercial motor vehicles, a truck or a bus on public roads? And does that truck or bus have a gross vehicle weight rating or a gross combination weight rating of 26,001 pounds or more? Or does it carry 16 or more passengers, including the driver? Or is it used to transport hazardous materials? If it doesn't meet this criteria, it is not required to be in the DOT drug and alcohol testing program for FMCSA. Okay, so if you have a company that has 5 panel trucks that are 12,000 pounds, they're not required to be in the DOT drug and alcohol testing program. It's probably a good idea for them to have a non-DOT drug and alcohol testing program, but they're not required to be in the DOT program. Post-accident tests as soon as possible. Under FMCSA, the criteria is as follows. Number one, if someone dies in the accident, you always do a DOT drug and alcohol test. Number two, they have to have received a ticket, and also there was bodily injury to someone who has to be taken away from the scene of the accident for medical treatment. And number three, they must have received a ticket, and one or more of the vehicles in the accident needs to be towed away because it has disabling damage. So if the accident doesn't meet this criteria, it should not be a DOT test. They can do a non-DOT test based on their company policy, but they shouldn't do a DOT test. So a minor fender bender, no one gets hurt, nothing has to be towed away, no one died, no one got a ticket. That is not a DOT post-accident test. And this is just another chart about the criteria for FMCSA, basically helping you determine whether or not you do the post-accident DOT test. Also specific to the FMCSA is the reasonable suspicion determination. One trained supervisor. Employee training requires that the employer provide educational materials explaining the drug and alcohol regulatory requirements. So really, employee training can be just a display and distribution of information in the FMCSA program. But supervisor training requires a 2-hour program. This is available through an online training platform. It's available through a webinar. It's available with live training. So those are all things that I do, and that somebody certainly can get up to par and be trained to do them at U.S. drug test centers. So again, we do pre-employment testing, random, post-accident, reasonable suspicion, follow-up, return to duty. So you get a call from a company and they say, we have 6 drivers and we need to get a DOT drug and alcohol testing program. What do we need? Okay. And I say, well, do you have any program yet? Nope, we got nothing. Do you have a pre-employment negative test result on the 6 drivers that you currently have employed? No, I don't. I don't have anything. Okay. First thing we're going to need to do is get those 6 drivers, get a pre-employment test, because it's better to get them done now late rather than not at all, because you can face significant fines of up to $10,000 per occurrence for not having those negative pre-employment tests. Now, you're not going to have them on a timely basis, but it's better to have them than to not have them at all. Then we're going to need to enroll those people in a random testing consortium. So we're going to need their names and their social security numbers to enroll them in the program. The program can be a standalone program or a consortium. I'm going to get into what each of those is. You're going to need a policy. We can provide that for you. We provide the employee education. We provide a compliance manual outlining everything that you need to do, including the post-accident instructions. We can also provide you the reasonable suspicion training. Okay, so all that could add up to a sale that could be $600 to $800 for a company, small company that needs to get in a program right away. So, any questions at this point?
No.
Regarding those basic regulations?
Okay. We're going to have access to this slide when you're done?
Yeah, you should already have it, but I'm happy to send it again. It should be in your university.
Okay.
Okay, so let's tackle the questions that you had first, and then we'll go into more into the employer program and the owner-operator program, as well as standalone random pool and consortium random pool. Okay, so the first question is, according to DOT regulations, it states that once informed, they must go immediately to a sample collection facility. However, when tests are ordered or test orders are scheduled, we provide them with a 7-day window to get the testing completed. Does this hinder any way the urgency of getting completed for owner-operators? Okay, so let's talk about owner-operators a little bit more in detail, and we'll come to the answer to this question. So an owner-operator calls and they need a program. Really what an owner-operator needs, and this is what I call a true owner-operator, it's Big Joe, Bubba Joe, operating his own truck. He does it all by himself. He's the only person involved. He works for himself. He clearly works for himself. He's an owner-operator, okay? He needs a pre-employment negative result. He needs to be aware of the regulations. I don't know if you have access to a little blue booklet that DOT provides that explains the regulations. We usually send those out to all our owner-operators. He needs to be enrolled in a random consortium. Question?
Joe, what was the name of the little blue book?
I'll pull it up in a minute. It's something like what employees need to know about DOT drug and alcohol testing.
Got it.
And you can order it from DOT and they're free. So it's great to give them out because, you know, you're giving it when you sell them a program, you're giving them something also, you know. So he needs to be enrolled in a random consortium. He can't be in a standalone pool because that would only be one person, and you can't drug test 25% annually of one person. So he has to be in a random pool. That puts the responsibility of managing his DOT random drug testing program on you as the TPA, as U.S. Drug Test Centers. So with owner-operators, this is an exception to the rule. With owner-operators, you're kind of filling the shoes of the designated employer representative, the DER, because they don't have a DER. There's no oversight. So as a TPA, you're providing some oversight, okay? So you put them in a consortium, and typically you run your consortiums quarterly, and before you run the consortium, you want to make sure everybody that's in the random pool is supposed to be in the random pool, and you know, anybody that you've kicked out, you take them out, or anybody that's quit the program, you take them out, and anybody that's new to the program, you add them in. Then you run the random selections, okay? And the random selections for the owner-operators, once they're run, you can have an email sent to that owner-operator notifying him of the selection, or you could send it to yourselves, and you can call every owner-operator and tell them they've been selected, or you can do both, okay? I believe we do both here, okay? So once they get the notification, they're supposed to go right away, okay? Now, if you're ordering the test for them, the system has a default to expire in 7 days. But when you order the test, you can change the expiration date. I will be calling them that first morning and telling them they need to go for the test today. Now, I wouldn't make the test expire today, though, because the nature of the owner-operator, they just may not be able to get there today, okay? And there is a little leeway on that. I mean, technically speaking, they're supposed to stop what they're doing and go right away. But if they're driving through Texas in the middle of nowhere, or through Montana in the middle of nowhere, that's just not realistic. It's not going to happen, okay? So, you know, you might want to make that expiration 3 or 4 days, or maybe even leave it at 7 days. And, you know, Ashley and Anthony are going to have to make that decision. But you have to stress to the owner-operator that they've got to go right away. They cannot put this off, okay? So you really have to make a phone call or send a text, and that we send a lot of text to owner operators because that's how they communicate. So, you know, do they have 7 days to get tests completed when it's random? No, not really. Are they going to get fined or busted for it? Probably not, as long as they got it done in a reasonable amount of time. And that's going to be subject to them getting audited. And they're not likely to get audited unless they have an accident, or they're really lucky and they get picked for an audit, or if they're new, okay? If they're new in the program, if they're a new...
Joe, did we lose you? Yeah.
the owner-operator.
There he is.
Hey, Joe, we lost you for about the last 30 seconds. Sorry.
Okay.
Just type.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. So I was saying that, you know, if an owner-operator gets an audit or a safety review, they're looking for a good faith effort to comply with the regulations. Probably not going to get a fine if it took them 2 days to get their random test done. What's important is that they got it done, okay? It's the companies that take no effort at all to be in compliance, the owner-operators that take no effort at all to be in compliance are the ones that are going to have issues. Okay. Now, when I sell to an owner-operator, okay, again, what do they need? Okay. Well, they need a pre-employment test. They say, well, I already got one. Okay, if you got one, fine. Make sure you have documentation of that negative result. I take their word for it, okay? Now I'm going to put you in a random consortium, okay? So I put you in the random consortium, and, you know, if I'm selling you the pre-employment test, I'm going to charge you for that. if I'm selling you the random consortium, I'm going to do for that. That's basically what you're charging an individual owner-operator for, the pre-employment test and the enrollment in the random consortium. And I believe you have all that information on your website that, you can, if you forgot what it is you're selling them, you can look it right up on your own website. And so I believe that would be DOT drug testing and owner-operator consortium, random drug testing program, and I don't know if there's a link for that. Join the owner-operator consortium, and you've got enrollment certificate, drug and alcohol testing if randomly selected, the employee education guide, and access to over 20,000 collection sites and medical reviews. So that's really your sales pitch for an owner-operator. And probably the most important thing is we can get this set up today. Would you like us to get this set up today? Yes, I would. Okay, I'm going to need some basic information, and then I'm going to need a credit or a debit card for the $199.95 to get this set up today, and we will get you your enrollment certificate out today or tomorrow. The most important thing that they want to hear is that you can get this done today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're, one thing you got to remember about these guys is they're driving down the road when they're talking to you, okay? Make it very short and sweet to the point. Listen to them first to find out what they're trying to accomplish, what are their needs, and then solve their needs, okay? So they don't have anything. Well, we have a great package for you. It includes your required pre-employment test, your enrollment certificate that will prove you're in the program. It includes the required drug and alcohol random testing, the required employee education guide, and access to collection facilities for your drug and alcohol testing all over the country. We can get this done today. Would you like us to get it started? That's the pitch right there. It's really that simple.
Joe, can you tell me a little bit about the employee education guide? I've been going through those manuals, and I'm assuming that this is something different.
Well, in the compliance manuals, we have a section that's the guide.
Right.
Okay. So that suffices.
Got it.
The blue book that I referred to. Let me just find that. So this is what it looks like. I mean, you can download it off the website, and you can just send it to them, as a document, or you can take it to a printer and put your logo on it and give it to them that way, or you can order them from Odapsy, send them an email and say, I'd like to order 100 of the what employees need to know about DOT drug and alcohol testing. We serve a lot of owner-operators and a lot of trucking companies, and we like to give these out to the trucking companies in our areas.
Okay.
So that's basically the employee educational guide right there.
Got it. I don't know that we've been doing the employee.
I mean, we have a printed version also, and that may be what you've been sending,
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm also not 100% sure with just the couple that I had my hands on that we're sending them the employee education guide. The only time I've seen that is putting together the master manual. I don't know if we're doing that, so I need to check with Ashley and make sure we are.
Yeah, well, if you're putting together that manual, you do have an employee educational section in there. It's right, one of the sections.
That's only for people who are purchasing that master manual, not just for somebody signing up for a consortium.
Yeah, so this is just kind of fluff that we send them, this blue book, It just kind of gives them something that, besides their certificate, if they just gave you, $200, it's just kind of showing them
Sure.
that you care about them.
Makes sense.
Now, we also send them a sticker that they can put on their truck. We have our print and makeup stickers that say drug-free workplace or drug-free driver. You know, some put them on the truck, some don't. We put our logo on it and we put our phone number on it.
Got it.
So it's kind of a source of marketing.
Sure.
All right, any other questions about the owner-operator? Probably everybody there has sold one of these, right? These packages? Not hard, right?
Yeah, almost. Almost. No, it's easy, and you hit the nail on the head. The dude I just did to right before I got in here was driving through the middle of nowhere, needed to get it. It was a 3-minute conversation, boom, boom, done.
Exactly. Okay. All right, now let's talk about the company. Let's talk about the company that has more than one driver, so 2 or more, okay? They need a little bit more. Once you get past that one driver, you need a little bit more. That's where you need the policy. That's where you need the compliance manual. That's when you need the supervisor training, which is the 2-hour training, okay? So that's where we sell them a more comprehensive compliance manual. Now, here on your website, you have a company DOT random drug and alcohol program, $199.95. So this package, access to the collection sites, access to online system to find a collection site, receiving test results and pulling results in the case of an audit, enrollment into the random consortium, plus the enrollment certificate, the employee education guide, and a dedicated drug testing specialist assigned to your company. You're also providing them the complete instructions on how to manage the program in the compliance binder. You're providing them copies of the regulations in the compliance binder. You're providing them a section on supervisor training, a printed section that does not meet the 2-hour requirement, but it gives them some information to get started. And then as a follow-up, we can sell them the 2-hour online training, or, you know, a webinar training, or a live training, depending on how many people they have. So this leads to the question now. So this program, with the owner-operator, the random tests that they're selected for that year are included in the program. Then the next year they pay an annual fee. I'm not sure what that is.
$159.
I'm sorry?
$159.
In their second year they pay an annual fee.
Yeah,
in the third year, etc.
The same
It's the same. The $159.95 is if they don't need the pre-employment, but yeah, for companies it's $199.95 annually.
Okay. So with the owner-operators, that annual fee is covering any random tests that they do. With the companies, that annual fee is not covering the cost of testing that they do. They're going to get billed separately for the tests that they complete. Okay? Now, the company has a choice. Are they going to go into the consortium pool with other companies, or are they going to have a standalone random pool? A standalone random pool is where it is just that company. So for example, in a consortium, I might have 1,000 drivers, and that's made up of, let's say, 300 companies. And the 300 companies, they total 1,000 drivers. So we're going to test 25% over the year for drugs, which is going to be 250. We're going to test 10% over the year for alcohol, which is going to be 100. And everybody's in compliance because everybody was eligible for testing. Everybody's in compliance regardless of whether they were selected or not. With the standalone pool, I've got 20 employees, I've got 20 drivers, or I've got 100 drivers. The pool consists only of my drivers. So if I've got 20 people, I'm testing 25%. I'm testing 5 people over the course of the year, or rounding up to 6 or 5. And I'm testing 2 people for alcohol, 25% for drugs, 10% for alcohol. So in a standalone pool, employees of that particular company are always going to be selected. So we go back to one of your questions regarding the pools, and it says, in being part of a consortium and only 25% of the consortium are being selected to test, how can you ensure that your drivers are compliant as far as testing goes if they aren't being chosen to test as part of the 25%? Well, that's why it's random testing. You may get picked, you may not get picked. You may not get picked at all this year, you might get picked 3 times next year. It's all totally random. The program is not asking to test everybody. The program is asking to test randomly at a rate of 25%. Now, if the employer says, I want all of my people to be tested 25%, or I want all of my people to be tested 100%, I want to make sure everybody gets tested. They can do that because the 25% is a minimum rate, minimum 25. They can test at a higher rate. However, if they want to test at a higher rate and they want to test, make sure that their people get tested, they should not be in a consortium. They should be in a standalone pool on their own. Now, is there a minimum or a maximum either way? No, not really. The only minimum is when there's one. When there's one employee, it has to be a random consortium. But if there's 2, they can be a standalone. Doesn't make any sense because one of the 2 is going to get picked every quarter. But when you get about 20 or over, and it's strictly their option, that's where it makes sense to have a standalone pool.
Oh, so it's optional.
Well, I mean, they can decide, but yeah, I mean that seems to make
so
sense.
you know,
typically,
if you're
compliant.
Yeah, you want to make things simple for these people, okay? So if you're talking to a company, you know, a lot of times you get a call from a wife of a driver, okay, and she's the DER. And her husband owns the company, he's a driver, and he's got 2 other drivers. You're not going to mention standalone pool to that prospect. You're going to tell them about your random consortium program. You're not even going to talk about a standalone pool. When you get to about 20 or over, that's when you may say, do you want to be in a standalone pool or do you want to be in a consortium pool? And that's where they may say, well, what's the difference? And what's the difference in pricing structure? And that's where you may have to go through, okay, here's how the consortium works, and here's how the pricing works, and here's how the standalone pool works, and here's how the pricing works. Does that make sense?
So is there any maximum number that would require a company to have a standalone?
No, there is not.
Okay.
Okay, here's the point where I answer any and all other questions.
I don't know, Joe. It's pretty straightforward. I had 6 questions written down here, and you answered all of them just by going through the deck.
Yeah. How about anybody else there? Tell me about a call where you got flustered and didn't know what to do.
No, come up with. Well, you got company. You transferred like 3 or yeah. So you transferred 5 company calls. So you have to have some questions.
I know. No, because I mean, there's definitely more clarity now as to what needs to be asked first in order for me to even make a suggestion or make,
Yeah, so one of the most important things is right from the beginning of the call, don't be doing something else. When the phone rings, stop what you're doing, okay? When you pick up the phone, listen very carefully to what they say, because their first sentence is going to tell you where to go next. And if you miss their first sentence, the call is going to go downhill from there. And when you listen to them, you want to listen most people listen with intent to reply. So they listen and they want to reply. What I want you to do is listen with intent to understand. So it's okay not to reply to what they ask. It's okay to ask them a question so that you can clearly understand what they're trying to accomplish, what their needs are, because then it's your job to solve their needs. And if you just, every time they ask a question, if you just reply with an answer, you're on a zigzag and you're not going to get to where you want to get to quickly and professionally and efficiently. So you want to control the conversation by, no matter what they ask to begin with, you might reply with another question or a statement overall in general. Most of the time it's probably going to be another question, because you want clarity to what they're looking for, and then you want to acknowledge what they're looking for, and then you want to provide a solution.
Got it.
And most people that call you are looking to do something right now. They may not verbalize that in the very beginning, but really that's why they picked up the phone and called you.
Joe, is there much of a variable as far as, calling different companies, ours, yours, companies that I don't even know of yet, as far as the company annual pricing goes?
Yeah, there's a lot of variable, okay? So, I mean, Anthony, you probably want to just Google DOT drug testing and call some people around the country.
Yeah.
And see what their pitch is, okay? You're going to get everything from, well, I don't know, I'm going to have the owner call you back tomorrow, they're out today, to somebody that can professionally answer your questions. Pricing structures are different. For owner-operators, not everybody includes the random testing. Some people do, some people don't. Some people charge annual fees, some people don't. So it is really not, you're going to get a wide range of answers.
Got it.
Okay, any other questions?
I think we're good, Joe.
All righty, well, you guys have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.